to our audience, to those of you who don't know, Ms. Lahandapura is the chairperson of the Marine Environment Protection Agency, also known as MEPA, that has been working overtime since the Express Pearl catastrophe to deal with the damage to our marine environment. But before before I begin, I'd like to apologize to everyone for the extended delay. Like I said, these are issues that sometimes are out of our control. Ms. Lahandapura, I'd like to start with asking you about the Express Pearl burning. There's so much we've heard from various perspectives, but I'm sure that your perspective is a very different one. Can you tell me about how it transpired with you? What were you doing? What was happening when you heard about this fire at that time? Did you think that it was going to have any impact on the marine environment, at least to this degree? Or at which point did you start taking the fire seriously?
Well, good morning, Royal and the team. First of all, let me apologize for the delay. There were some technical issues. And to tell you frankly, I'm not that much familiar, conversant with Twitter. Sorry about it.
Not
And
at
yes,
all.
yes, with regard to MV Pearl Express, yes, it was actually a very unique experience one can get in one lifetime experience, I would say. Well, when we got to know this incident, that was actually on the 20th May, around 4 p.m. We got a message from Navy saying that there is a vessel outer harbor anchored, and there's a small what do you call this? Smoke is emitting. Smoke is emitting, and that was the initial communication that MEPA received. And when we got this information, MEPA has a mechanism in place when there's an environmental emergency that we need to place it. So basically, according to that mechanism, I instructed my team to call IMT, Incident Management Team.
Okay.
Right? We convened that was actually a lockdown day, right? We were actually at home and all of us. So we called this IMT online and had a discussion on the very same day at 6 p.m., just 2 hours after we received the initial communication from Sri Lanka Navy. And we actually kept everything standby. We never knew that this will be this magnitude, and it will actually will be a catastrophe like this. But still, the mechanism in place, we had the meeting, and we actually we requested all of them to be standby, be ready for a emergency. That was the initial reaction or the initial approach of MEPA. And the next day, we had a joint visit to the area, to the vessel.
Okay, so this is on the sea itself or on the shore?
Sea,
right.
Yeah. Together with Sri Lanka Navy, Sri Lanka Ports Authority with Harbour Master and his team, and DG Merchant Shipping and his deputy, and also a representative from a local shipping agent, right? Together with all of this team, we went to the very close to the vessel, maybe 10-20 meters closer, right?
Okay.
So we went there, we observed the continuous fumes emitting from the vessel, and we also observed SLP and Sri Lanka Ports Authority tugs actually doing some boundary coolings. So this was our initial observation. And after that, we had a lengthy discussion, detailed discussion with all the stakeholders concerned, involved in. And we actually, from that point onward, we actually took this very seriously. I'm actually talking about the MEPA's point of view. Yeah.
Correct. So two questions. One is, by the time you all went into sea to sort of observe the ship, at that time, Ms. Lahandapura, had those nurdles and containers and stuff started washing ashore, or was it before then?
Before then. Well, before that, that was on the 21st. So well before that, it was only smoke emitting, and flames actually was visible here and there, not a big fire like this.
Okay.
What we did was we sent, I mean, according to our Act, Marine Pollution Prevention Act number 35 of 2008, we
Mm-hmm.
are given the mandate to issue directives in a
Okay.
if there's imminent threat to environment, marine environment and coastal environment. So according to that, we actually sent directives to the owners, the insurers, PNI club, and also their local representatives
Okay.
uh, to take certain actions.
Okay.
To
Speaking about the IMT, you mentioned an IMT. What
yeah,
was it? What does it
incident
stand for?
management incident management team.
Right. So, did you, whatever protocols that were already in place for the incident management team, did you find that it was perhaps not enough when it came to this disaster, since it was a much, much bigger disaster than anyone of you had, dealt with in your lifetime?
Yes, yeah, I agree with that. Yes, I agree with that. We actually have to have different approaches, mechanisms, especially if we are to become a maritime hub, because anyway we are a transit hub in the Indian Ocean. So if we are to become a maritime hub, definitely we need to have more systems in place, more infrastructure facilities, also a lot of trained expert staff in this area. But
Right.
to tell you, sorry,
Go
yes.
ahead. No, go ahead, Ms. Lahandapura.
No, actually, we have identified some of these things, and at the beginning of this year, we have actually done the amendments, proposed the amendments to our act, and we have sent that to our ministry to get the cabinet approval. So there we have actually identified many areas that we need to address as a country if we are to become a maritime hub. So
And
yeah,
this happened before this disaster, or is this something that
no,
you
no,
all had left afterwards? Beforehand.
before disaster,
Okay.
at the beginning of the
And
year, like yeah.
okay, way before any of this happened. Ms. Lahandapura, on a personal note, when you got in, how long has it been since you got involved with the MEPA, especially as its chair?
Well, it's only 1.5 years after I
Right.
got resumed duties as the chairperson of MEPA.
Okay. And did you
Yeah.
ever think that when you say marine environment protection, did you ever think that chemical leak of this nature would be something that you would have to deal with? Or did you think in terms of plastic bags, and other garbage that flows from inside, from land to sea? Was that where the focus was all this time?
Of course, yes. Actually, now when I was assigned as the chairperson of MEPA, I was actually this was of I was appointed by the His Excellency the President, and he actually had some vision because our country when we want to become a maritime hub, and also especially a country which has a marine area which is 8 times larger than the country, the opportunity for us to the gain from blue economy the is enormous. So basically, I was given some instructions to focus on that area. Uh, so our actually prime attention was actually to become maritime hub and how to get the economic contribution from
Mhm.
blue economy. So that was the prime this thing, and focusing on that only we have developed our uh, amend our act, and we have also proposed to get our country ratified to certain international conventions. And we were focusing on the maritime casualty because which is a mandatory part in our act. Maritime casualty, of course, is a area that we have to deal with. So that area was actually given a lot of focus, and we had a lot of discussions, and we have invested a lot of time identifying areas, and especially during the last year lockdown periods, we invested a lot of time to identify potential areas. We believe actually chemical pollution would be a at that time last year we were when we were having internal discussion, and also we got down some experts, so we identified chemical pollution would be a potential threat to Sri Lankan water. So that part was not included in our act. But as I told you at the beginning, we proposed that also to be included in our amended act. So we have proposed that part as well. So we had that idea that potential threat from chemical pollution. But this
And
plastic nurdle, of course, we never had anything, this kind of thing
yeah,
would happen. So that was actually a new thing. And I think we'll have to find different mechanism to deal with that.
yeah,
So, and also we focused on, as you correctly mentioned, about the land-based pollution as well, because out of the entire pollution coming into coastal and marine area, nearly more than 80% is from the land-based. It is only 20% from coastal and marine waste. So basically, that focus also was given, and we have planned our activities accordingly. Yes.
right. So when you were talking about the chemical, the the impact from chemicals that you all had talked about before, even before this happened, what
Yeah.
were the concerns then? They've also land-based chemicals that were maybe flowing into the ocean, or was it from somewhere else?
No, specifically, our attention, we focused on the chemical pollution uh, from the maritime casualties. That was our
Okay,
focus
right.
actually.
Right, but it wasn't included into the paper that you talked about.
We have included that in our amendment, and we have sent that already to the ministry. That is actually included at the moment. Initially, it was not. Now we
Yeah,
have included, but then we'll have to get the cabinet approval to make it a law. Yeah.
right. So there was some. I mean, I suppose there was some concern that this could happen, but perhaps not to this degree.
No.
Yeah. Ms. Lahandapura, tell me where things stand right now. Like, where do, like, from a marine environment protection point of view, what is the status of things? Where are you all at? What more needs to be done?
Well, when you think about the, if I'm to discuss about the present current status of the issue, well, we all know the pollution. Coastal pollution has impacted coastal areas starting from, say, from northwestern province, uh, close to Mana, up to down south, close to, I mean, very much close to Kirinda area. So basically, the pollution has spread throughout these coastal lines. And MEPA had been the authority. We are actually a regulatory authority, but then we have mandate to prevent pollution in coastal and marine areas. So basically, we uh, decided to have three step strategy. First is to do cleanups, accelerated, proper cleanups. And then second step, to dispose whatever the waste that we collect in environmental responsible manner without leaving any further environmental footprints or any further negative impacts to the environment or to human health. Human health. And the third step that we are actually plan was to have proper structured scientific restoration program with the support of local experts, as well as getting down whatever the required foreign experts for that activity. So this is the three-step strategy that we planned. And as of the first step, we need to do proper and accelerated cleanups. For that, actually, we got down the assistance of tribe forces through disaster management center, and up to now we have deployed nearly more than 15,000 man days uh, across these along these coastal areas, the beaches,
Mm.
and we were able to remove nearly, not nearly, actually more than 1,000 metric tons of waste. And Central Environmental Authority, they declared this waste as hazardous waste because we don't know what in it, because this actually a mixture of everything, burn
Mm.
debris, nurdles, the chemicals, it can be anything. So basically, because of that, they categorize this as hazardous waste. So we need to collect them, transport and store them in prescribed. There are prescribed methods that we need to do. So following those things, we'll have to do. So. We have collected and store these debris in 11 different locations. So in a yard which has obtained, which has the environmental license from CEA to store hazardous waste. And we are in the process of discussing with some of the entities which has the capacity to dispose them in environmental responsible manner. So we are in that process. And also at the same time uh, we have formed an expert committee, technical expert committee, to assess the environment damage. For that, actually, we have nearly 41 professionals, uh, professors, two professors are co-chairing this committee. One professor from Moratuwa University, he's actually heading the chemical pollution part, and another professor from Jawaharlal University, who's a pioneer in environmental economics. They are the co-chairs of the committee. This committee actually represents nearly 14 ministries, 14 institutions and universities, and under 10 thematic areas like biodiversity, uh, uh, chemical pollution, then human health, waste management, seabirds, fisheries, uh,
Right.
etc., etc. So we are actually studying very comprehensively the impact, especially the wildlife. So assessing the damage, doing a very comprehensive report.
Right,
This
Miss
report, which
Lahandapura, sorry, I
yes,
just to jump in.
yes,
Some of the questions that have come up from the public, at least, has been why the
yes,
government is not being more forthcoming about the information. Like, for instance, the damage to the to water, the water and marine test results from that northwestern coast line right up to the south. Like, why has that information not been given out to the public? Is there some reason for this?
well, yeah, this actually is a very tricky situation. Now we are in the uh, process of damage assessment. This is actually for two purposes. One is to assess the damage and to get to know exactly the extent of the damage to the environment, so that we'll be able to plan the restoration accordingly. Right? That is the first need. That is the first requirement, and the second one is to get the compensation from the owner or the from the insurer, and failing which will have to go for litigation, right?
Right.
So this is a bit of a tricky situation, and we as I told you, we are in the process of doing very comprehensive damage assessment. We have taken water samples, we have done air quality monitoring, we have collected the carcasses from turtle carcasses, and the marine mammals, seabed samples, sand samples, everything we have collected, and we are in the process of getting proper analytical test reports for this, because we need to have a proper understanding about the root cause of the damage, and we are actually getting ready ourselves for a potential litigation. So,
Right.
as you all know, we'll have to actually, if we are to go for a litigation, then it will be against whoever the party will be some international arbitration or international litigation. So, for that, I think some of these information are very sensitive.
Right.
So we cannot release them at the moment. But once we start this litigation and once we file the case, and this document will be a public document, so that the general public can easily access, they can have the easy access, and they can actually get whatever the information from it when we file the case at that time.
Right. That's great to
Yes.
hear. Um, Miss Landapur, also, I don't know if I mean, I did inform your team, but usually we open up for questions in the middle of the session.
Yes. Yes.
Um, yes, so just before we open up, I have a few things to tell our audience. One is we have realized that with time, that there are some people who want to ask questions but are unable to. They send requests, but we don't really see the requests, and then we are DM'd and told that requests have been shared. What we figured out is that that happens if you are using a Twitter Lite account. So we want to request you to make sure that your Twitter, you're using a proper Twitter app on your phone, and that also your app is up to date. Those are two things that you need to do to ensure that your requests come in. Also, like we said last time, based on our experiences now with spaces, we have 5 general guidelines, and that is basically to let our audience know that the interview that we host is primarily between ourselves and the guest. However, as far as possible, we will open the discussion to the audience. We will take as many questions as we can, but we also request our audience to keep questions brief, respectful, relevant to the topic. We'd like to remind our audience that it's not incumbent on the guest to answer something if the guest is not comfortable or feel they would prefer to answer the question at another time on another platform. They can do that. And also, as hosts and moderators, Raw Media reserves the right to close the discussion without opening for questions, although we will take note of and try to incorporate any questions tweeted or DM'd to us during the discussion. Furthermore, this discussion is always live recorded. Like, we record the session and we live tweet it and we upload it onto our websites and across all socials. So just so you know, these are the basic guidelines around the Raw Twitter Spaces, which you can also find tweeted out. So in the meantime, if there's anyone who would like to ask Ms. Lahandapura, who is the chairperson of the Marine Environment Protection Agency, any questions, we ask you to hit the mic button on the left and you will fall into a queue, which we will approve, and then you can ask your question. We will maybe wait 5 minutes to see if there's anyone who has a question. We can continue with the questions, Ms. Lahandapura, until Shanila gets back on. Or if there's anyone else, this is your moment. You can request to ask Ms. Lahandapura from the MEPA any questions that you have. In the meantime, Ms. Lahandapura, I want to ask you from a personal level, as a person, and not so much the chairperson of MEPA. How did you deal with this disaster as it was unfolding? Like, what did you find that you had to do? Was there some kind of protocol that you sort of slipped into, or some kind of way in which you dealt with the enormous stress that you must have been feeling at the time?
Well, yes. Well, this is this with this incident. Actually, it was a challenge. It was actually a challenge, and also very stressful, because this involved in not only environmental aspect that we have to look into, and also legal aspects, because this is a very sensitive area. We have to protect, while we have to protect environment, while we'll have to do cleanups and disposal and that part. We are also have to look after the potential oil spill. If there's any oil spill, we'll have to combat with the assistance of IMT. So that is there. And also parallelly, we'll have to do the damage assessment, and also we have to get ready ourselves for a potential litigation. So it's a very stressful situation, and very and also on top of that, on top of everything, media is also one aspect that we need to manage. So with all these things, this is a stressful situation. And what I can say at the moment is that the freedom actually given to me by the higher authorities, basically Prime Minister being the cabinet minister for our ministry, and also the state minister, also the secretary. Actually, all of them, they have given me a free hand to take whatever the required decision wherever appropriate. Whenever necessary, they have given me freedom to take whatever the decision. So that actually is a very relief for me. And in that sense, I don't need to follow whatever the protocols which has laid in public sector. I'm free to take decisions then and there. And also they continuously do follow-ups. And wherever possible, they also support us in some. There are some instances where I actually cannot myself alone cannot push some stakeholders in that sense. In that case, they both of them actually came in, and they have supported me wherever possible. So with that, I think I was able to manage my this difficult situation, difficult task. And also I must commend my MEPA team's the dedication and their commitment from that day onwards, it's actually more than 1 month now. The leave has been cancelled, and everybody actually is working continuously throughout the period. Some of them actually stay. They have not gone their home for 1 month. They stay in some other rest houses in Colombo, and throughout the period they are doing this. So my higher authorities plus my team, MEPA team, has given me full support and assistance wherever required. So I think my stress actually been somewhat it has come to a level manageable with
Right.
all of these things. Yeah, and
Right.
also my family, my husband and my kids actually they manage on their own without me for 1 month. Yes.
Right. While you're dealing with this, now we have another ship that was yesterday, at least as of yesterday, on fire. The engine room was on fire. This is in the south. And
Yes.
before then, there was the new Diamond. We also have a question that came in from Environment Sri Lanka about the question is, what is Sri Lanka doing to prevent more marine shipping disasters, given that 60,000 ships carrying 50% of the world's container shipment, no, I think 66% of the world's oil passes
Yes.
through this area. So, what is being done to prevent this sort of any more marine disasters? Because we had New Diamond before, we had now Express Pearl. Yesterday we had the MSC Messina. And I think there was another ship also that sprung a leak just in the interim. So, what can be done, and what is being done about this?
Well, just to avoid marine disasters, marine casualties, actually we cannot do anything because that, I mean, if you take the statistics, you can see how much maritime casualties taking place all over the world, right? Now up to now, on only within 2021, I think more than nearly 1,000, if I'm not mistaken. Actually, I saw this in one of the websites, maritime websites. Nearly 1,000 maritime casualties has taken place. So in that sense, we cannot manage this. But what we can do is from our end to get ourselves prepared for this. So to minimize the negative impact. So that is what we can do. For that, actually, not only MEPA, but also there are some other regulatory bodies like DG Merchant Shipping. We have to have our own, we have to equip it, uh, we'll have to, as I told you, with regard to, I mean, we'll have to equip with the proper legal framework. And also, we have to have a lot of other infrastructure uh, to combat potential impacts from these maritime casualties. And also, on top of that, because we are expanding our horizons to become a maritime hub, at the same time, simultaneously, we'll have to expand our capabilities uh, to face this kind of situation, having a lot of uh, technically advanced machinery and also the systems, mechanisms in place. So that is what we need to. Otherwise, we cannot avoid maritime casualties because that is happening everywhere in the world. So I think for that, from MEPA's point of view, we are on the right track. We have sent, as, uh, as I emphasized earlier also, we have sent our amendments to get the cabinet approval. So that part is done. And also we are in the process of getting a lot of experts. I mean, we have done, uh, we have planned, and also we want to make a paradigm shift. We don't want gradual development, but we are planning to do a paradigm shift, uh, improving MIPA's capability and capacity to look up to become a kind of a uh, center which we can manage or handle maritime disaster. So we are in the process now. A lot of areas being identified, and it will be actually taken. I mean, with this incident, I think our process will be accelerated, and I think whatever the approvals required will be given very without any hesitation with the magnitude of this issue.
Right. Ms. Lahandapura, there's also another question that was tweeted at us by Environment Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
linked to your last answer. They want to know what are the, I think you touched on this before, but just maybe for clarification's sake, what are the amendments proposed and why hasn't the cabinet approved the amended bill?
Well, the proposed amendments. Well, first thing, as I told you, in our act, it is only given the recognition. I mean, it is only given identify oil spill disasters, not chemical spills. So we have included that in our amendment, proposed amendment, to include chemical disasters and other noxious substance disasters and pollution. Also, uh, to be included in act. So that is one area, and there are some other loopholes that we identify in our act. Now, for example, I don't know whether we have time. Uh, for example, last year, mid last year, we were able to arrest few bouncers, which was actually coming from Sitavaka industrial zone. They want to dump some of their hazardous waste, liquid waste, through a pumping station, which actually goes directly to the ocean, right? So we were able to arrest them, but our act actually doesn't have any provisions to take legal action for attempting,
Right.
right? So
Therefore,
likewise, yes, there are many loopholes, and also we cannot file actions in magistrate courts. We'll have to go to high courts. That is there, and also we cannot do any spot fining. And now, if we found somebody is polluting coastal area, we cannot take any action. So, so likewise, there are many weaknesses we identified, and all of them have been included. And more importantly, Sri Lanka is not ratified to 8 conventions like hazardous and noxious substances convention, and there's a bunker oil convention. We are not party to, so we have included provisions of those conventions also into our proposed amendment.
right.
So
And is this, sorry, is this proposed amendment accessible to the public? Is it something that the public can also access
uh
on the website or anything like that, or is it
well,
not?
no, but if anyone is interested, we can actually pass that to them for their reference, and also if there's any suggestion from them, but not
Right,
a public access document.
right. Okay. All right. Ms. Lahandapura, just to close off, in summary, how much more do you think needs to be done? I know that in terms of collecting marine, collecting what you may call it, samples
Debris
from,
samples,
yeah,
yeah.
no, no, the samples, the debris
Correct.
collection is still going on as far as I'm
Yes.
aware, and collecting samples from the soil and from the water is being done, so that you all can, if necessary, build a litigation against the ship owners. But where in, like, at what percentage is each of these things? How much more has to go until this ends? And what sort of, is there like a ballpark of what kind of claim Sri Lanka intends to make at this stage from a marine protection point of view?
Well, I don't think I can comment on a particular uh, claim.
Figure.
But
Yeah.
what I can say is that now we have actually given our expert panel a TOR, which actually has given a very specific time period of 3 months. So we have asked them to complete whatever their findings within 3 months, so that we can actually get the at least a comprehensive report after 3 months. But normally, now in this kind of disaster, in this kind of situation, we have to, I mean, we cannot stop monitoring our environment, taking samples after 3 months. We have to continue that at least for 3 years.
Right.
So we will have to continue this process, because to see now, if suppose if uh, any species, any fish species
Right.
got impacted, we have to continuously monitor to see whether their breed actually got reduced, whether we get the same catch next year. So
Mm.
likewise, we'll have to continuously keep monitoring the and also take whatever the samples that we are taking now, we'll have to continue that. Not the frequency, maybe a little less, but then we'll have to continue this for next three years. So that is it. And with regard to environmental damage, I think claim will be a bit of a high amount, but cannot say exactly a number now. So we are, because we can see the pollution and also the damages happen to seabed, to our water column, and to species,
Yeah.
to our
And
fisheries, to livelihood. So all those things will be taken into consideration when we doing the damage assessment report.
right. All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Lahandapura. Despite the delay, I think we had a very interesting conversation, a good catch up on what's happening right now. Thank you also to our audience that stayed online through even the technical issues we were dealing with. A reminder to everyone that if you're using some of the issues that we've dealt with so far with our experience with Twitter Spaces is if you're using a Twitter Lite app, sometimes you will not be able to request to speak. You will also not be able to come on as a speaker, so you need to update your app to the Twitter app proper, among other things. So stay tuned to those things, and thank you again for staying online. Thank you once more, Ms. Lahandapura, for getting on this
Yes.
interview.
Yeah. Thank you, Royal and Raw team. And also thank you very much to the listeners for their patience, despite my technical, whatever the issue that I had. So thank you very much for everybody.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.